There's much more to life than drinking milk and paying taxes, my dear.
And to present you
That's mad.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Mad Records podcast. My name's Michael Gilbride. I'm the founder of Mad Records, which is an online collective that provides opportunities and support for independent artists. Every week on this podcast, we feature a song by a member of our collective, and today you're listening to Unusual Fairy Tales by our collective member, Joanne Bird. Joanne is just returning from her headlining tour in the Netherlands, and she's one of my favorite artists and people in our community. So if you're interested in listening more from Joanne, you can check out her music and this song down in the link below in the Substack post. Today, I'm speaking with two of my favorite people in the world. They're the founders of the massive YouTube songwriting channel, How to Write Songs, with over 170,000 subscribers. Other accomplishments include teaching songwriting at Berklee College of Music in Boston, sync placements with brands like Adobe and Citibank, building their own online songwriting community and education platform, and releasing original music under their duo project, Names of Birds. Benny, Keppie, always a delight, always a pleasure. What's up? How you guys doing?
Yo,
We're great. Thank you for that lovely intro. That was
so
the
nice
worst
hearing
part of
other
the
people
podcast.
introduce you, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sweet, right? It's you get to hear all of your, it's kind of like a mini funeral.
Exactly. Which is funny because I often, let's go deep here. I often like fantasize about the eulogy for my husband. I know that's macabre, but for me, it's this act of love where I'm like,
Yes.
I don't wish him dead, but I'm like, there's going to be this sweetness in this very sad moment of being able to like really talk about all the things that I really
always
love to
Thought
everyone
about
else.
similar things
Yeah.
where like people are coming up and they're like, that was stunning. You captured him so well, like that kind of thing. And you're kind of like, you're still tearing up, but you're kind of like, it was beautiful.
There's a song
Yeah,
in the
yeah. No,
works.
the fantasy is definitely about my performance.
Oh, right.
right.
No, the fantasy is about like being able to say all these things that you
Right,
think
right.
about
Sure,
this
sure.
person, but that might be
Sure,
slightly
sure.
awkward to constantly be telling the person.
We have a song we're working on this idea. I think it's in one of the rough notes, from months ago, called "Waiting for the Eulogy," or why are we waiting for the eulogy or something. So like we have certainly pondered on this topic before. It's a good one.
Yeah. Well, let's revisit this later in the pod. This can be like a nice little section for us to cover. I want to start today by getting some background on both of you, how you got into this kind of songwriting position that you're in and teaching songwriting and being champions of kind of breaking these songs up and teaching it as a craft. And then I want to talk a little bit about kind of future of songwriting and AI. I know it's a big topic of like, how that's going to impact the songwriting world and everything. I know you guys have some thoughts on that, but why don't you maybe start by giving me a kind of a brief background? How did you guys end up building the YouTube channel? I'm just so curious how that journey. I don't think I ever got to hear it myself.
Kep and I have known each other for 20 plus years and have had, lots of collaborations together, been friends, traveled together, done all sorts of things. Our families have hung out together, during all that time. It really was 5 years ago when I think the seed got sown. And it was kept starting to, my memory of this. It's always interesting when you go back and you say, how did it all begin? Even though it was only 5 years ago. It's like, I can't really remember what it was like when my kids were babies, because now they're 8 and 6, even though that's not that old, but I can't really remember what they were like as babies. It's kind of like the same with the business and the YouTube channel. But my recollection of it was that Kep was lecturing, doing a lot of online education with various colleges. I was doing the same thing. We talked about that all the time, and the challenges of online education, or the challenges of delivering songwriting and music education. And it got to that point. I'm sort of diving straight into like the problem we were feeling. I think the problem we were feeling was like, we've got all this great content we've been developing. We were literally writing curriculum for the colleges. We were designing programs. We were doing all this stuff, but we were delivering it to what felt like at the time 4 or 5 reasonably interested people, on a Zoom session, 2 of which had their cameras on and 3 of which didn't. And it just felt so underwhelming at that point. It was a privilege to teach and to work with those students, but it just felt like my take on it was, there's so much more impact we can have. We can do this bigger and better and more effectively for lots of people around the world who love songwriting, who love music making. So it really started with that being like the problem or the agitation. And then discovered a YouTuber called Ali Abdaal and sent me a video, showing Ali Abdaal's breakdown of his own channel and how he's very transparent with his own channel, with his own process, with his own business model. He shows his finances. He shows how it all works. And Kepp sent it to me, said, you should watch this. I watched it. We both ended up having subsequent conversations, which were sort of along the lines of, oh, that's how YouTube works. Thinking we understood how YouTube works, based on that video. But, we at least had a glimpse into the world of YouTube. And we started the experiment of, let's see what happens if we take some of this college curriculum, this material we've been delivering in colleges, and create YouTube content with that. And I think that's probably a good time for you to pick up, Kepp. That's how it began.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think that for me, it was a really similar, agitation. I guess I'd been teaching in higher ed in lots of different capacities for over 10 years, longer than that, probably almost 15 years. And, really similar motivation. And I was also teaching in a combination of like formal higher education and then sort of like adult education, not for credit kind of thing in various capacities. So for like Berkeley Online and also at the Sydney Conservatorium in Sydney, they have like an open academy. And one of the things that I found is, the college and university students, they, as Benny was saying, like they come in and they're like quite skilled, but they're dealing with so much, just developmentally between the ages of like 18 and 24. Like, they're not just taking this one songwriting class, they're taking 11 different courses and also dealing with all the social pressures and like also obviously during COVID, just dealing with so many other novel pressures, emotionally and psychologically. Yeah. And so their sort of levels of motivation quite like vary quite a lot, as opposed to in the sort of more adult education space, like people who are so motivated because they desperately want to learn about songwriting. They come with such a level of incredible motivation that that's kind of the space I wanted to be. I just wanted to deal with people who really wanted to be there, really wanted to learn, really wanted to progress, or like fully motivated or their full hearts and spirits are dedicated to this thing, because that sort of matches, I think, the level of enthusiasm with which Benny and I approach the subject matter and the practice of songwriting. Like I don't want to have to convince someone to care or to learn. I just want to meet them when they're thirsty for it. And that for me, again, just like Benny was saying, was like, how do we actually build something where those are the people that we're meeting constantly so that, we can share our enthusiasm and passion for this and kind of give people the thing that they want when they want it. So for me, it was also because I'd been teaching for so long and yes, developing all this material. And I sort of thought like, I'll build some online courses, I'll build my own online courses. I've been teaching in this kind of like world-class online education space. Like I know what a world-class online education experience looks like. I can build my own now. And then just very quickly, I'm very glad that as I started kind of researching and poking around in this space on like how to do that, that I came across a few ideas early that I think really helped and is like the formation of the YouTube channel. So the basic ideas with business building, as I discovered and just didn't know, I just never thought about this stuff, right? Is like, well, don't build a product and then it's not a build it and then they will come space. It is actually like can you find a following or an audience And then once you've got that, ask them what they're interested in and then build a thing for them. Don't sort of like assume
Hmm.
what they want and then give it to them based on what you think they should have. It's like really ask the people what they want. So I then had, that moment of insight and thought, oh, if we can build, like a global audience of 100,000 people, then we can actually ask them what they're interested in and like actually be in conversation and build things in conversation with people. So that's essentially what we did. And then that was it. There was like, as soon as we had that sort of insight or thought, suddenly I find that like the information you need right then kind of, comes into your field of vision. And that's when we discovered Ali Abdal. And it was that video that I sent Benny wasn't like, this is how YouTube works. It was like, I had no idea how people made money on YouTube. Like I just didn't have no concept of it at all. And this one video was Ali Abdal kind of just breaking down all the different revenue streams that are based from YouTube. And it was, he's not a music. I mean, he's a hobbyist musician, but I'm saying he's not a professional musician. He's not a music educator. He does completely other things. So it was really more like an analog comparison. It was like he's doing this thing over there in this completely different field of expertise. But it was very clear to me that I was like, oh, we are practicing musicians. So we have this one track, which is like the skill of music and songwriting. We also have 10 years of education. So we have kind of like endless content, to kind of explain and express this thing. And then the other space with YouTube is just the technical thing, is like understanding light and sound, how to actually make
Right.
something look and sound good. And actually, it turns out that, 20 years as a musician, um, understanding audio is a direct translation into understanding light, So to kind of put things together visually and edit video, it's like learning French from Spanish. You know what I mean? It's like if you understand audio editing, you can actually pick up video editing really quickly. So it was kind of this intersection of things with YouTube where I was like, I think we have all the components where we can like step into this space. And kind of looking on YouTube, I was like, and I don't think anyone on YouTube is actually doing the thing that we can do really well.
I think that was the big moment, I think, Kep. Like we really there, there are so many people who teach guitar. There are so many people who do instrument, specific content. We just couldn't find anyone really niching down on songwriting. We just, it just didn't seem to be there in any meaningful, consistent way. And it aligned beautifully with this other agitation I think we had that we developed for 10 years or more, certainly more than 10 years, actually. This agitation around the idea that somehow songwriting is different to all other things in that you either have it or you don't. The idea that songwriting is in a bubble and it's either a gift from the gods or you're out of luck. We just found that every term that came around at college, we would be confronted with this. Parents would ask it at open days and kids would still be sitting there kind of not believing that it was something you could learn. And so that kind of, I would say that agitated us to the point of we're going to do something about that in a very overt way. We're going to find this little gap on YouTube where no one else seems to be talking about it. And then we're going to talk about it in a way that is very assertively putting a flag in the, in the sand and saying it is something you can learn. It is a craft that you can absolutely get better at through repeatable habit building and, just a good understanding of the technical components involved. And then let's throw some inspiration in there and talk about a variety of prompts to help you along the way. Like we just made it our mission to dismiss anyone who said you can't learn songwriting. You can't get better at songwriting.
Well, there's a couple things I want to underline there because like one theme with this podcast that we interview artists, musicians, but we also interview business owners and one thing that we obviously try and teach in Mad Records is like how to build a business around your music. And there's two things that you said that I kind of want to underline there, which is like there back in the day, if you were gonna build a business, you used to kind of like build the infrastructure and get your marketing organized and get the product and focus groups and tests and all of this stuff. And then you would like whip off the cover and you would like unveil this thing, right? Because there was a high barrier to entry to starting a business. You had to have marketing teams and you had to have all of this infrastructure in place. Nowadays, it's the complete opposite. You can start a business basically for free on any of these platforms, right? And so when the barrier to entry is zero, it means that you can get data for free. And it's better to get data and then build the thing than it is to build the thing, spend all this money on it, and then release it and then find out that no one wanted that thing to begin with. So like that's
Mm,
something that we always try and drill with the members of our collective is like you need to go out and bump into things to figure out exactly where you're supposed to fit, not the other way around. You don't like figure it all out and then show the world. Um, and then the other thing that you mentioned that I just want to highlight too is like the fact that you said there are no songwriting channels, therefore, this is an opportunity for us to build a songwriting channel. A lot of times that's intimidating for people. They go like, unless that path is already created, then we shouldn't do it. But it's like
mm,
that's where all the opportunity is. Like most people would say, oh, well, I guess there isn't a big songwriting footprint on YouTube. I should build somewhere else. It's like if no one else is doing it, sometimes it just gets overlooked. Like sometimes there's
mm.
just no one doing it, and that's your opportunity.
It's funny you
Totally.
say that though.
Oh no, go on.
I was just going to say it's funny you say that because there is absolutely that fork in the road moment mentally where,
Hmm.
you know, Kep and I have worked with lots of different people over the last few years, and they're in different spaces. Some of them are in innovation and tech and different entrepreneurial ventures. And it's so interesting that sometimes they're trying to design or create this thing that no one else has done before.
Hmm.
And there's always that moment of like, have they not done it before because they looked at it and went, that's a terrible
Right.
idea. No one wants that. Or have they not done it before because they just haven't had the genius moment of insight and inspiration that we have had. And you realize that as you're saying the second one, there's a moment of delusion built in
Yeah.
there that you almost have to double down and say, yes, this is possibly slightly deluded, that, no one has ever had this idea before, and then you choose to lean in or to shy away. And we were lucky that I think Kep said to me early on, like, it's not that there aren't other people talking about songwriting on YouTube. They're just not doing it in a way we can do it. We can own that space. Like we can be the go-to, you know, channel on songwriting. And so it's almost like at some point you have to lean one way or the other. And if you flinch too much,
Mhm.
you really can psych yourself out and say, well, no one's done it because it's just a terrible idea. Okay, let's not do that. But we luckily went the other way. Kep, sorry. You were
But
gonna say.
I'd like nuance that a little by saying that's true, but there, with the available channels and kind of, platforms, I think there's still a good solid logic underneath what we did, which is to say, um, are there people looking for what we offer or proposing to offer on this particular channel, right? So, like, a really good example of that is shortly after we created the YouTube channel, we actually very quickly, and this was in like the building of a business is like an interesting learning, which was like a small success, but ultimately a failure, like or like not a failure. It was like um this sort of releasing these short courses on a particular platform was like an interesting move, and it was only by doing that that we then learned that that was the wrong platform to do that on. But even so, like making our first couple of short courses, there's actually many different platforms on which you can release a short course. There's Skillshare and Kajabi
Mhm.
and um blah blah blah, right? And there's and
Yeah.
Udemy
Mm,
is another one.
mm,
So for us, we were actually like, okay, well, which of these, where are we going to release a course? And so there is a little bit of research there that goes, where of all these platforms are people looking for music or something adjacent to music such that there would be like an overlap of their interest with what we have to offer as well. So, it's like looking for the open space that you can kind of step into, but also going, is there a legitimate
mm.
Yeah.
reason why I would choose this one over that one? So YouTube is just it's such a cool thing that exists at the moment because there's organic traffic and organic impressions. Like it's not like Google search, you know what I mean? Like you can just open the browser and YouTube will like suggest some things to you, which doesn't happen on a Google browser, and but it is the second biggest search engine in the world. So if you are making educational content in any capacity, it's such a cool platform for that. So it made a lot of sense to us. And actually, music is like the most consumed thing on YouTube. Like of all the things on YouTube, music is like the most consumed thing. So there's obviously people interested in music that were already like, as Benny said, like other kinds of music education channels. So people are obviously on YouTube looking for music education. There was just an open space for us there to do real songwriting specific stuff. So
And I think it's worth mentioning the convergence of a few different factors. Like it was COVID, everyone was online, so everyone was on
Right.
their computers all the time. And you got the sense that, if everyone's on their computers all the time doing online stuff, the appetite for things like short courses and self-paced courses. I mean, self-paced courses became this huge thing. So suddenly, if you're in a position to make content and promote self-paced courses, and we were in that position, it makes so much sense of the whole business model. But we were also at an age where, as I said, we had that kind of agitation. If it had been 10 years younger, if there was no problem with us being in colleges and just we were happy to keep doing it, we wouldn't have experimented with YouTube. YouTube felt like a really worthwhile experiment where we had to give a lot of time and energy. Like we gave a year and a half of our time to making with no financial remuneration. Like you just got to put in all of these hours.
Yeah.
Like each of us, I think we're doing 15, 20 hours a week for a year and a half just to build it up, just to get the momentum going. And it was because of the agitation of, we can't just keep teaching in colleges. We can't just keep doing what we've been doing. So this doesn't feel that risky. We have to change something. And it's interesting when you get to those moments in your life where you have to change something and it feels like that's it. I need to do something so it doesn't feel that risky. But it would have 10 years earlier. It would have felt like I'm not doing that. That's crazy.
If you're an independent artist, there are only two things that you really need: opportunities and support. That's why I created the Mad Records Collective for independent artists. It's an online community where you can get access to real opportunities for your music career, as well as support, feedback, and guidance from our team of professionals. Inside the Mad Records Collective, you'll have opportunities to get your music in the hands of major music publishers like Warner Chappell and Primary Wave. You'll also have the chance to get your music featured in our monthly Substack publication, or even on this very podcast. But more importantly, you'll be surrounded by a community of other independent artists and coaches that can help you get clarity and momentum with your artist career. And to celebrate the launch of Mad Records Collective, we're offering a free 30-day trial so you can check it out and see if we're the right fit for you. We already have 200 plus artists in the community, and we're waiting for you to come join us. So click the link in the Substack post below, or if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, head to madrecordscollective.com/podcast to start your free 30-day trial of Mad Records. Okay, back to the podcast. Yeah, and I mean, this is a theme that with anyone who has their own business now, and I kind of run across as you reach these points where it's like, now's the time to build my own vehicle that I can kind of man and take wherever I want to go. Because it's funny, because like I got involved with mastering.com, which was online production education company, in 2020 as well. And you had the same thing. It was like this boom period for online learning. And I think that really kind of opened the floodgates to like alternative learning, alternative online education. Like prior to 2020, online education was seen as kind of like a derivative of going to school and university. And then what we saw with mastering.com was when I started there, everyone would say to me like, well, you guys don't have degrees. And we were like, yeah, well, it's music. Like if the music sounds good, who cares where your degree is from, right? And I remember we hit a ton of resistance in the early days because everybody would say like, well, you're not accredited, you don't have degrees. And then by the time I left in 2025, it was like,
No
nobody
one's
gives
asking
crap. They
that
were like,
question. Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
they're like, if this is cheaper and you can get me better results and I can do it quicker, then I'm all in and I don't care. And that has been really
Non-accredited
interesting.
micro learning became, yeah, that whole like not,
Right.
I think in 2 years, non-accredited micro learning became this whole industry that had never existed because across all of these different fields, where suddenly people are training up or leveling up in their own industry, but they're doing it unaccredited and they're doing it through these private content deliverers or education deliverers. It just suddenly became a thing.
Well, and I think that's kind of where the idea for Mad Records kind of came from, was that you're desperately searching for an economy for artists to be able to fund themselves, or for there to be some sort of money in the artist economy, if it's
Mm,
not going to be in record sales or streaming or whatever. And I think education is like a big solution for that. It's like every artist has a skill that they can share and something that they can teach.
mm,
And if we can link those artists to the people who want to learn it, no, you're not selling direct records and whatever, but at least there's an economy there that can fund people and get them bootstrapped and get them off the ground. And I think like that's where we've all connected really, really well, is that we're both artists, we're musicians, we have this passion for education, and we've used that to build these businesses that we can then kind of support artists or build our own projects or whatever the case is. So I think the online education space, I think we're just really at the kind of beginning stages of what that's going to look like. It's like not at all
mm,
a mature market, but yeah, I reached the same point as you, where it was like in 2025, I had the opportunity to go do Mad Records, and you have that upfront cost you have to pay to just be like, if I want my freedom, you got to kind of like climb out of the pit and build it for yourself. And then once you get there, it's like it's awesome because it's all within your control. But getting
Mm.
there is really challenging. So I think that's fascinating. One more thing on the YouTube channel, I want to talk a bit about songwriting itself. But was there a moment where you kind of locked in on like, this is gonna work, or like, what did that process look like? You said it took a year and a half,
mm.
but did you know that, were there signs that it was working along the way, or like, how did you get through that period?
There were like early motivators that
Hmm.
turned out to be deceptive, but
Mm.
without them, we wouldn't have persisted to actually
That's
figure
a
it out.
hilarious way of putting
It's
that.
so cryptic that I love this. This is like everyone's going,
Yeah,
what
So
does that
basically,
mean?
like we had the
I know exactly
idea,
what that means.
we had the idea, and like the other thing we did, which was a mistake that we learned from, was we totally overdid all the technical component the first time. So, like, we ignored all the advice, which is like, don't worry about how it looks. Don't worry about the quality of the production. Just focus on like the value of your content and ideas
Hmm.
and like get in the reps. Like, the whole thing with YouTube is like, figure out a way to get in the reps and then just improve the quality of the production like 1% at a time, that whole classic 1%, right? So don't wait to have a fancy camera and a big light and a blah, blah, blah. Like just put your iPhone on a stand and like talk, but
Right.
have an idea of the things you want to talk about. So like the advice, the good advice, right? Like if I were to do it again and start from scratch today, right, with no gear and anything, it would be like daily short video content with a structure. It was like it would be like and not just like what am I making up today? What am I making up today? But no, going like, all right, I'm going to find something that I want to improve at, for example, within the realm of what I want to talk about, which is music, and create like a 30-day series, which is like, I'm going to learn how to play this incredibly hard piano piece in 30 days from scratch. Like I can play a few monkey chords and I'm going to learn how to like play this thing that I really want to play in 30 days. Like watch me do it. You know what I mean? So, and only as a framework to get in the reps of like producing something, talking to camera, turning it on, publishing, recording, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's like gold standard advice. We did literally the opposite. So, I remember in that first video that we did, Benny, like we set up 2 camera angles and we had like 3 microphones and like we're trying to do like B-roll and cut-ins and all this kind of shit. And
Yeah.
it was so technically complicated
And it
that
looks terrible.
and it looks terrible.
The lighting, we got the lighting wrong. It's overblown. We're crammed into the side of the frame and we dip out of the frame. It's like it's hard. I can't watch that video. It's just Nasty.
So not
Well,
only
it's
was
just
it a,
I was just gonna say that's a common problem that we see with a lot of artists too, is that like I did this with my solo project when I first was releasing music. I like was like I'm gonna get an animator to animate my music video. I spent like a couple $1,000 to like no one even knew who I was. I was like, what am I doing? Like if I had the
yeah.
opportunity to go back, I would just release some music and like start trying to get things out into the world. And it's like you don't want to invest that heavily in the beginning. You just want to get the reps in because chances are you don't even know what you're building
Mm.
yet.
Totally. And honestly, like the much more like wide angle shot of all of this in the building of the business is just like how much you just have to learn by doing the thing and how much you
Yeah.
rob yourself of learning the right way to do something by kind of doing it the wrong way. Like you can't know until you've actually done it. It's just such a truism of this stuff anyway. So we got that completely wrong. And so not only was it like so technically complicated to actually make the video that we were like, whoa, this is unsustainable. Like we cannot get the reps in if we are shooting like this. And it looks terrible. And then basically what happened is I think we didn't make another video or we I maybe made a couple of videos, but it was like not, there was no system, there was no regularity to it. It was, yeah, that it didn't have it down at all. And then the weird deceptive thing that happened is like that terrible video that we made suddenly went viral. Like the
Oh
views on
wow.
it suddenly like went massive and suddenly we went one day from having like 600 subscribers to like 10,000 subscribers on the channel. Do you remember this, Benny? It was like we filmed
Yeah,
that
yeah.
in March and then it was like in
Yeah.
October. I was like,
Yes.
something is happening here. We need to really, and I think you were like, let's do this. Like, let's really figure this out.
It was the moment. It was the moment of like, what is happening? And also, who cares what's happening? Let's just jump on it.
Yeah.
It's like, it was so confusing. And when we look back, we can see in our back end analytics, like the lifetime of all of our videos. We've got 180 videos on there now or something. And you can see all the little spikes, the ones that flatline, the ones that spike. And there's this, at the very beginning of the journey, there's this just little flat line and then this enormous spike that was the beginning of everything, like that 600 to 10,000 kind of sub thing that happened. And we were just like, okay, so we'd be crazy not to keep going, right? Let's go for it.
Yeah.
But so the failure continued after that, in the sense that that was like the deceptive motivation that was like, we've got something, let's go. Like, so then we're making videos and then none of the videos were like doing anywhere near as well as that. And we're like, what's going on? And then we tried to be clever and make these short online courses. And we were like, basically, it takes so much for us to make videos. Why don't we make online courses and then just excerpt videos from the online courses and repurpose them for the YouTube channel? And again, they just didn't do great. Like we just couldn't
Yeah,
recreate.
YouTube was like, we see
Yeah.
we see what you're
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to do. Yep, they know.
We couldn't recreate the sort of success of this random video. So this was really like a year and a half of just trying things out and doing it in a completely unsystematic way. And then basically what happened was we were still very sure, like just stubbornly sure that we could figure it out. We just hadn't figured it out yet. And I think at that point was when Ali Abdal, this YouTuber that kind of like kickstarted the whole idea, was said that he has a thing called the Part-Time YouTuber Academy, where he really kind of sort of teaches everyone his like systems and mental models and all sorts of ways that he approaches doing it. And he was teaching it live for the last time, and I just said, I reckon we should just do it. So we did do it and learnt so much. So
Which we should say, when we say we did it, it's not like it was a weekend. It's a full year of being like, it was I think it was 6 weeks with his team, or 4 weeks or 6 weeks with his team, which is like sessions live, lots of back end stuff, but then you've got access to all of this content for the whole year. I think, and we
and
had
kind of
20,
support and
yeah, 20,000
Yeah.
subs at that point. I think we had 20,000 subs. and we had 50 videos that we'd made on the channel, and still had no idea, what we were doing. And they
Yes.
basically told us all the things we were doing backwards in the first week.
Yes. And so we tried the things the right way. And like the short story of this is within about 3 months, went from having 20,000 subs to like 75,000 subscribers on the channel. Suddenly had like just a series of videos that did it, that actually like
Yeah.
our intentional efforts resulted in reward, like resulted in like actual outcomes. So that was great. So that was when we kind of really learnt the sort of levers to pull that actually make a difference on that platform. So
And the craft of YouTube, the fact that
and the
YouTube is
craft of
its
YouTube
own ecosystem and with its own rules, and if you want to
and
play
its
by
own
it,
art
play in
form.
that
Yeah.
world. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So even just the art of a YouTube video is completely different. Like the storytelling, the visual scripting storytelling is completely different to the way that you would do an online course or convey information in that environment, which is why the videos from the online course, they didn't translate on
Right.
YouTube because
Mm.
the visual language of YouTube is completely different. The way that people arrive at YouTube is completely different than what they're looking for. Um, so we learnt the craft of YouTube essentially, and it turns out that there are things that you can learn and there are ways to sort of have success. And I would say like the headlines on that front for anyone like interested in YouTube, the headlines on it are like the title and the thumbnail are disproportionately important. Like so the gold standard methodology on YouTube is like don't make a video and then think about the title and the thumbnail, have the title and thumbnail ready before you even go in to make the video. So like make sure that those things are strong in and of themselves, and then script the video and make the video. So
To the
we might
point
have
though, I was just gonna say, to the point, like we should just give some color around that, Kep, because that sounds like a good idea, but still Ali's team was basically saying, how many of you create the video, like shoot the video, edit the video, hours and hours of work, and then as you're uploading the video, then you think, oh, what should I call the video? And should I take a freeze frame with the thumbnail and put it in as and he was basically saying our team will workshop titles and thumbnail ideas for days. And then we will find a good combo of thumbnail and title. And only then will we script and shoot. So it's like it's not just that you do it first. It's like it is the thing that either opens up the opportunity to shoot the video or shuts it down. And we were just like, what? We're like, that can't be
Well,
right.
yeah,
But
well,
it's how they do it.
it puts you in the consumer perspective of like the first things that they engage with is the title and the thumbnail. And so you're forced to think through that constraint of like the whole video does not matter unless the title and the thumbnail are interesting. And so why even build a video unless you know the title and thumbnail are going to be compelling?
100%. And I think if you value your own time enough to actually make the thing, you need to then like value yourself enough to say it's not worth doing if no one clicks on it. So if no one sees it, you're just standing in a forest alone, like screaming. So,
Right.
You've got to sort of over index on the thing that you've got to get people to walk through the door in the first place. So that is disproportionately important to the production process, actually. So, if we opened up, if you saw our like thumbnailing for every video, if I opened up like the Canva file with all the thumbnail iterations, some of them have like 40 different versions. Do you know what I mean? Like with just like micro
Yeah.
adjustments as I'm going and, like, yeah. So, um,
And you're doing your
that
own little
is,
photo shoots, and then going through the photos and picking the ones with like tagging them with different expressions, the shocked face, the surprised face, the
Yeah,
thoughtful
yeah.
face, the you need to know this, like all of these things. Like there's so much self-loathing involved in that process for me, but you're doing all the faces and then you're compiling them and then you're putting them in and doing the iterations. It's like days of work to try and get the thumbnail and title sorted, and then you're like, okay, I think that's kind of tight. Maybe now I'm going to shoot the video.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is reinforcing why I couldn't do YouTube. I just like I can't can't think that way. I just like I don't know why it would just drive me insane. Like that's why I've done everything on Substack because I'm like just get it out there and then
Yeah.
see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think the main takeaway there is like you wander for a long time and bump into a lot of problems, and then you find yourself in the position for the right advice to to get you out of that plateau that you've been in for a long time. Like, and this is something that I think like even with Mad Records that we feel now where it's like I when you're explaining that YouTube journey, I'm like feel it in my soul of like what the Mad Records journey has been like, where it's just like
Mm,
there's so many things that have been so encouraging and moments where you're like finally we got it only to find that it is like truly one brick in this huge thing you're trying to
yes,
build and you're like oh
totally.
it's I got that brick but then it's like you're looking back at the picture and trying to think of like it's going to take forever to build this and you have to be delusional in a sense but
Totally.
it
And we're still very much in that process too, like so in the
Yeah.
yeah
thick of it. And it is not, yeah, like we are still finding those bricks and
Mm.
realizing that the thing that we thought was a brick is not a brick at all. It's a loaf of bread
yeah
and it should be put to the side. Like,
hmm
so like another example of that where like you just have to do it to learn what the next thing is. Like you can't actually guess this next thing is, for example, with the YouTube
right
channel. I think someone just got the idea earlier to say like, let's just turn Patreon on. You know what I mean? Like, let's just give people the opportunity to support it if they want to. Like, you don't need to wait for a magic moment. You don't need to. There's you
hmm
just turn it on and let people do it if they want to do it. Like that would also be the advice I would give to like any musicians or like it's just turn it on and let people know and like let them support you if they want to and then
right
figure out build it from there. So we sort of did that. We turned Patreon on and lo and behold, like trickle by trickle it built. And so it built to a point then where we just quite randomly were like what would be valuable in the highest tier of this? Like let's run some live song feedback sessions. And so we were sort of doing that once a month. And then it got to a point where we realized that like that was actually the thing. Like giving
Right.
people feedback was actually a huge reason why they were coming. And so, and then we were all hanging out in Zoom and we realized that people kind of wanted to interact with each other. And suddenly we realized, oh, we need to build a community like where feedback is the central thing of the community but is also on a platform where people can interact with each other and talk to each other and meet each other and like build out this sense of community, not this sense of just like unilateral we're just communicating stuff to you and you're kind of tip jar supporting us and we randomly meet once a month and that's just a cute little thing that we do. It was sort of like, oh no, this
Right.
is the thing that we do and we no longer want to have an audience. We want to have a community.
Mm.
And ideally as a business, it's like we don't want the value to just be like our faces. You know what I mean? We want there to be
hmm
true educational value like happening in a supported, like resource rich, people rich environment where there are actual interactions and relationships being built. So that was kind of like the next iteration. So that was only, a year and a half ago that we kind of moved to a different platform. We moved away from Patreon and onto a platform called Circle, which is kind of really, really designed and built for that kind of
Mm.
community and heaps more flexibility, right, in the ways that people can engage and the way that you can do events and all that kind of
Mm.
stuff. So that was like the next iteration. And we're even going through the next iteration, which is like realizing that, you know, even this fundamental principle that like it's an education business, yes, but actually it turns out that of all the like things that we do, people love the accountability of the sort of songwriting prompts that we give through these songwriting
Mm.
sprints and they really crave feedback. You know what I mean? So actually the next iteration is like, all right, well, how do we actually guarantee individual feedback to every single person, not just like
Right,
come
right.
to a group environment and we'll randomly select some people and you may or may not get feedback. And, we can try and create as many of those group situations, but we can never guarantee that, there aren't going to be 10 people who turn up. So 5 of them are not going to get feedback, So part of it is going, no,
Yeah.
people are really, that's what they're looking for. We now know that so clearly, and we have the relationships to really ask people and kind of understand people's primary motivations and drivers, and now we can actually iterate the business again to really be giving people the thing that they really, really want, and that we do, really, really well. So it
Important to
continues.
note, though, that none of that was planned. Like, just to go back for full transparency, um, we were a YouTube channel. And then
Yeah.
someone said it, and I don't know if it was Ali Abdaal or Pat Flynn, or I actually can't remember who said it, but someone made the comment to us, you don't have a relationship with people on YouTube. You don't. You think it feels good because you've got all these views on your videos and you've got some comments and you can comment back, but that's not a relationship. Your
Yeah.
job is to create a relationship with them off YouTube. That was the moment where we were like, oh, hang on, we're a YouTube channel, but we don't have anywhere else to take them to develop this relationship. Patreon presented itself as this other opportunity to actually say, okay, come over here and let's continue the conversation in a more meaningful way. And really, all the iterations that Kep has just said have been an extension of that initial idea of how do we really think of YouTube as a great way to give value for free. You can think of it like a marketing channel. You can think of it as, just a way to put your content out into the world and establish a brand, all of those things. But at some point, you've gotten all of this attention from all of these people around the world. What do you do with that attention? Was the big question we had to answer. And so our answer to that is giving them other spaces to come, giving them other places to connect with each other,
Mm,
which we're calling our community, and make it such a vibrant, happening place where they get feedback, they get resources, they get to interact with each other. That then became like the mission of the business. It was a YouTube channel, and then it really became a business when we started to think about community
mm.
building. But
Well, and I
it
would
was
say
not
even
planned at all.
Do you want to get your music in the hands of some of the world's biggest music publishers for potential placements in TV and film? Then listen up, because we're helping artists to do exactly that inside the Mad Records Collective. The Mad Records Collective is an online community for independent artists where we provide opportunities and support for your music career. And one of those is our Run for Cover challenge, where you have the opportunity to create cover songs for our publishing partners at Warner Chappell, Primary Wave, Cobalt, and more for potential placements in TV and film. In fact, one of our members just got their song that they created for this very challenge licensed for a season finale of a TV show, netting her a few $1,000 and a ton of exposure for her music. In addition to the Run for Cover challenge, members of our collective get access to real, live sync licensing briefs where they can submit their original music for potential placements as well. And most importantly, we provide support, coaching, and feedback all along the way, so that way, even if you don't land a placement, you can still learn, grow, and develop your skills over time. We're doing all of this and more inside the Mad Records Collective, and for a limited time, we're offering a 30-day free trial so you can check out what we're all about. All you have to do is click the link in the post below, or if you're listening to audio-only version of this podcast, head to madrecordscollective.com/podcast to start your free trial. We can't wait to work with you. Now, let's get back to the podcast.
Well, I was just going to say, even the first way that we thought that it would translate as a business is also not what it is. Like the first way that we and even set out with YouTube channel was like, we're going to create the YouTube channel and then we're going to make some online courses and then we're going to sell the online courses to songwriters around the world. Like that was kind of like the basic plan. And it's like that is now just a tiny, like the brick analogy, right? It's just a tiny brick in the much bigger house, because now we really understand, what is in the house. And not only that, but it's also about like really caring about songwriters really building their skills, building their confidence, building their craft, and actually understanding that like online courses, while great, it's just more content. And like the reality with just like self-paced online courses as a thing you buy is people buy them aspirationally and then don't take them. Like they will watch the first few videos and then stop. Like the completion rates on just self-paced, unsupported courses is really, really low. And so while that might be lovely to like sell a thing and like, make the money, it doesn't actually help the people on the other end ultimately, right? Like that's not how people actually learn and build skill. People build skill in community with accountability, with
Yeah.
deadlines, and in conversation with other people. And particularly with something like songwriting, by having the motivation that there's somewhere where you can post your song and people will attentively listen and give you meaningful feedback to actually help you get better,
Yeah.
So
Right.
to us,
Well,
that the sort of evolution is so much away from, again, just
Yeah.
like here's a course you can buy, good luck to you, and really like how do we create a environment and an ecosystem of true like nourishment and support and yeah.
And more content
there's
doesn't
a
solve the problem of creative isolation. Like you know that, Michael. You're building a community of people who you can give them all the content in the world, but if they're sitting alone,
alone.
consuming it and still feeling that sense of creative isolation, it's not a good equation. It's not a good formula.
Well,
So, you know,
this is a key thing that's been a direct problem with the artist community is that like, what you guys notice with YouTube is you're getting these clicks, you're getting these views, but it's not translating to a real relationship with your audience. And the equivalent for that for artists is Spotify, where it's like you have, 100,000 listeners, right? It's like, okay, no, I don't. You know what I mean? Like I've got 100,000 people that have engaged at some point, but where are they? And I don't know them, and I can't build a community around them. And so I think like that's the thing that obviously we teach at Mad Records is like that's step one of a long process, which is once you've created that attention with them and that awareness, it's your job to pull them in and
mm,
embrace them and go like, hey, you're my people, and I'm gonna
mm.
build a community around you, and we're gonna have this thing, and it's gonna be awesome. So. Um, there's a lot
And
of
just to be
lessons in
clear,
there just for
I just want to be like clear about YouTube. We love YouTube. Like we love the people on YouTube. The people, our subscribers and the people who comment on our videos, like they take so much time and care to comment. Like some of the
oh yeah.
questions they ask, some of the comments they make are so insightful. Some of the suggestions they give for new content ideas or like they are just the most beautiful collection of people who care deeply about songwriting and music making. And this idea of not having a relationship with them, it's not to sort of say that there's a problem with them. It's just the nature of the platform. It's the nature
It's
of
the
the
platform.
way
Yeah.
you put content out in the world, and then the best you can have after that is a few
It's a little
comments back and
comment
forth. And
exchange.
so, yeah, it's a craving. What we're expressing is really this craving to have deeper relationships with all of those people who do see the content and want to ask questions and want to make suggestions. It's just the platform doesn't allow it.
Mm,
So do you guys, I forgot to ask, do you have a hard stop at any point or do you have time to talk a little songwriting?
Let's go
yeah,
for it.
go.
Yes. Okay.
Definitely.
Well, speaking of production value, as the sun sets here, you can see my room is taking on a sickly yellow color, which is really kind of accentuating my natural sickness kind of well, which is nice. But I'm going to hard pivot here away from some of the business talk. I want to talk some songwriting stuff. First question, loaded question, and I want you both to answer this if you can. Where do songs come from?
Desperation.
How long have you got?
Yeah. I know it's like a little Pandora's box for
Do you want to
songwriters,
go
but
first, Cap, or do you want me to have a rant?
Where do songs come from? Where do songs come
I've
from?
I've
Well,
got a rant I want to go on. But Cap, have you
oh,
got something?
go on, Benny. If you've got a rant brewing, you
I've
better
got a rant brewing. No, I'm kidding.
pop
I'm
pop
kidding.
get
that
it.
cork.
No. I have a serious answer. Songs come from, and I think this to me is very important in terms of sustaining a life of songwriting. If you believe that songs come from you and can only come from your ability to internally generate an idea, I think you're cooked. I think it's game over pretty quickly because the pressure that puts on you as an individual to create these incredible life-changing ideas and then bring them to life in song form, it's too much. It's too much for any artist of any kind or any creative of any kind. So the reason I'm saying that is because I really believe the opposite is true, which is songs come from existing in an environment. You can't not exist in an environment day to day, and the environment changes. So you get up in the morning, you see your bedroom, you move out to your lounge room, you might go outside, you might go to the park. Like the rate of change of your environment is this incredible fuel supply of ideas. And I think your job as a creative is to connect with your natural environment, knowing it gives you endless material if you tap into it. You know, Mary Oliver, the poet, just seemed to make a life of noticing things. She uses the word noticing so passionately to say, if I just notice things each day, I'm good for the rest of my life. I've got endless things to write about because the world is so interesting. So for me,
Mm.
song ideas come from existing day to day in an ever-changing environment with ever-changing people, including my children and my partner and my friends. The conversations change every day. The news is different every morning. It's like that is just this endless supply. And then my job is to go, I find that interesting, that interesting, that interesting, flag it, write it down, and let my craft process it and do something with it. But it's for me, it's such an external tapping into an external supply of ideas that's what's sustainable.
Mm.
Right. So
Red over.
your participation in the process is the craft is your ability to take, the dinner I just had and the friends that I just hung out with and whatever the case is and put that into a song, but it is not the ideas are not coming from you directly in your opinion.
Your job is to shape them, I think, as a songwriter. Your job is to
Right.
take, the dinner I just had, the dinners we have or the conversations we have. My brain instantly goes, what would be a cool title variation of that idea? So I can then flesh out what I think would be
Right.
interesting to develop on that title. Like it's the craft is saying, I know titles are really important. I know there are song sections that have particular jobs to do, verses and choruses have different jobs to do. I understand that there is this musical language and chords have different functions within a diatonic key. I understand that melody has shape and direction. Understanding all those things, they're just tools on the tool belt that help you shape the idea when you stumble upon it or when you notice it or when you go hunting for it. But the ideas are so often a spark. Like no one deliberately generates a spark. When people have an aha moment, they didn't sit there willing the spark or willing the aha moment.
Yeah.
The aha moment happens, and the reason it feels like an aha moment is because it actually hits you and takes you by surprise. We're kind of like,
Right.
whoa, where did that come from? If it came from within you, if you willed it or designed it or manufactured it, there wouldn't be that element of surprise. It's surprising because it's like it comes at you and you're like, okay, what was that? Let's
So what
let's
is
work with
that?
that.
Okay, not to derail this entirely, but like what is that? Because I think I'm getting and Keppie, I want to get your answer obviously too, but the thing I'm
Mm.
eventually driving at here is that we're going to have a conversation about like AI and people think it's, doomsday for AI, but um I think that there is some sort of magic in songwriting
Mm.
where it's like I agree with you. I don't think it comes from inside, but that begs the question of like where truly does it come from? And if you're getting hit with this thing, and I guess I understand that this gets into kind of woo-woo philosophical territory very quickly, but I think like if you're gonna solve the AI kind of problem, you got to really start to understand like okay, yeah, you're getting hit with this idea, but hit from where? What do you think that is?
You've got like five senses, billions of neurons. You're an evolved creature that is so complex. Kep and I are both really fascinated by neuroscience and psychology, and we
Hmm.
both read a lot of books on neuroscience and psychology. The more neuroscience books you read, the weirder it gets. Like for me, every time
Yeah,
I
yeah.
read a new neuroscience book, I'm like, how? How is that stuff going on there? Connect that with all the things we're learning about the gut, and instincts and the fact that there's this thing called heart math where your heart is creating this electromagnetic field and it interacts with other people's electromagnetic fields. We are these we are these amazing entities moving through a world that is also amazing, you know, in unimaginable ways. I just think it's the intersection of all of these amazingly complex entities with each other and with this environment. It's almost like, rather than say like, where does it come from? I think of it as like, it's unavoidable. It's unavoidable that there are these sparks that occur through the intersection of all of this stuff going on. That the only challenge is, can you notice it? Can you capture it? Can you not dismiss it? You know, dismissing something as being everyday, I think, is one of the biggest problems for creatives, to say, I see that all the time, or, you know, I see that dog all the time with that guy walking it, you know, like, but if you pause and go, I notice that, there's something interesting about it if I pause just a moment longer. And so our participation is the pause. Our participation is the noticing, and then the conversion of it into this thing we call song form. But I'm sure other people, like screenwriters, are walking around noticing all sorts of things and then turning it into a script, and novelists are turning into a novel, and you know, every
It's
artist
like a
is turning it.
translation.
They're translating it into their own form that they love working in. But I think it all comes from the same place. We just convert it into different forms.
Keppie.
Well, and I also think, just to sort of maybe pivot a little bit towards the, the sort of AI conversation, is there is the spark of an idea. And I would just say, like, you know, every song is different and every idea kind of has a different character and personality and kind of wants to be dealt with differently as well. And again, you can only discover that by handling it a little bit and then being like, oh, this wants to be handled like this, or this wants to be handled like, you know, it's like every idea sort of has a different characteristic to it from wherever it comes from. One of the things I'll say, like, you know, now, Benny, in my like co-writing experience, you know, there are some songs that I feel like are us like tunneling a road through a mountain. You know, it's like we're there with our pickaxes and we're like, we know where this wants to go. We have to just like hack away at it and like tunnel through the mountain. But sometimes an idea is not that. Like sometimes it's actually like, oh, we need to stop trying to hack away and like plowing through this mountain and instead just kind of like chisel away at the side and see what emerges. You know, it's like it's a delicate thing where it's not as directional. It's like there is a much more delicate thing here, and we know we have a feeling that there's something in there, and we're not trying to plow a highway through the mountain. We're trying to like, you know, fossick. We're just fossicking in the ground to see what little gems or stones, you know, we can come, and then maybe we actually need to then like tumble them to make them beautiful. You know, it's like it's so
Kep knows I love fossicking. She's hitting on all of my happy
yeah,
place.
I nodded, but I don't know what that word means. But I was like, oh yeah.
yeah, fossicking. Fossicking is
Yeah, of
like
course.
looking for rocks. It's like rock
In
hunting,
streams.
rock
Yeah.
digging.
You can fossick anywhere. It's great.
Yeah, just go outside, start digging in the dirt, and you're fossicking.
Maybe I can add that to
Um,
the vocab now.
so, you know, that where do ideas come from? You know, yes, a combination of things. There is a, you know, incredible thing. But to me, there's also this whole, what I'm describing there as well is a whole pathway um between where the idea and then we have the outcome over here, like idea and outcome. All of this stuff in the middle is where AI can just go blip, like just sort of like goes
Right.
flip, like from this point to this point. But what is the path that it's traveling through? Like the path that it is traveling through is what everyone has already done, what everyone has already thought, what everyone has already said. Like the AI pathway is
Right.
just a combination of literally the things that already exist, you know?
Well, I want
Whereas
to
the
ask,
Mm,
sorry to cut you off, but I'm
no, no.
curious because I've been thinking about this recently. Is like, are humans different in the sense that, like, are we not kind of generative AI in the way that, like, we write music is a combination of all of our influences? Or do you believe that there is one element where it's like all of my influences plus this spark of creativity that is truly new and unique? Because if you think that we're just all of our experiences bundled up together and we output something that is a combination of all of those things, then the AI conversation gets kind of scary. If you believe that there's an additional creative element that cannot be replicated, then that's where you say like that the human experience is going to be unique. So I'm curious.
This
I tend to fall much more heavily on the second side of things. And I would say it's not just that there's like a unique
do I.
human creativity. It's actually that literally the process that we go through, that iteration, the bumping, the problem solving, the going like, oh, it doesn't feel quite right. I'm going to do it like this.
Right.
You know, all that kind of stuff in between here and there. It's not actually for me. It's not just a unique combination of all our experiences and influences and like some magical human creative spark. It's literally the process itself. Like the process itself is like a pathway of like, I'm doing this and no, but there's a problem there, but I don't like that. And I actually just don't like how that feels. That just doesn't emotionally feel right. And like, you know, all of that I think is a process that is maybe mapping onto what you're describing as like the human creative driver and impulse that cannot be replicated by AI, I think by like definition, because it's not engaging in that process. It is doing something else and also outputting something that is a median. You know what I mean? It's that's what it's doing. It's combining things that already exist. And I think that there truly is, you know, and it's not to say that like every time a human engages in the creative process that they end up with something like genius. You know what I mean? Like, you know, there's
Yeah.
heaps of super mediocre things
Check
that
my
I've
voice
created, but
notes. Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah,
you're right,
exactly.
Michael. You are right in the sense that like all the music Kep and I have ever listened to, all the study we've done is data that we draw on when we're writing. You know, so we're taking in
Yeah.
all that data, huge amounts of data, you know, decades of data, and then we're using that data and referencing that data either consciously or subconsciously to generate our own material. The difference is, and this is, you know, why um, I'm such a fan of this new phrase that I'm throwing around all the time, which is the physicality of music. The
Mm.
reality is that in the moment where I go to pick up the guitar and play something, that the way in which I strike the strings in the room I'm currently in with the humidity, what it is, and the mic I'm using to capture it has never been done in that moment. It's never quite sounded like that. And then if I try and replicate it, if I try and do it exactly the same way again, the way I play it the second time is going to be slightly different. And when the thing you learn from recording music physically, like actually playing through a song physically, is that when you listen back to the 5 takes, you're like, one of them just has a crackle to it. One of them has an energy to it. There was something that happened in that third take. If you're using a valve amp, the valves are pulsing, and that's an extra variable that you cannot predict and cannot replicate, recreate.
Mhm.
It's just like when you approach music physically as a physical act, the variables that you actually end up piling on top of each other are endless. When you give a prompt to AI, it has to spit out a digital artifact. There is no physicality in it. There is no variables that are unpredictable. It is drawing on the data set and it is producing a digital artifact. But humans who make music physically start stacking on. I've heard people talk about amps this way, like valve amps versus modeling amps. Modeling amps are amazing, but the thing that changes about my valves, if I turn the amp on between 10 a.m. in the morning and 6 o'clock at night, if it's on all day, it starts to change. Like it's when it gets really hot, it starts to break up and crackle. So the stuff I record in the afternoon or write in the afternoon is going to be different from the morning tonally and
Right.
energetically. How do you predict that? How do you factor that in or model that? And the answer is, of course, you can't. You can't stack all of those variables up, create a model, and say, let's use that. It's undoable.
Are you tired of submitting your music to playlisting services and submission platforms only to get blanket rejections, unhelpful feedback, or maybe land a playlist that uses bots to stream your music? The truth is, there is no magic bullet for building an artist's career. No playlist or blog feature can create overnight success, despite the promises of many companies advertising to independent artists. Unfortunately, I fell for a lot of the same traps as an independent artist myself, which is why I created the Mad Records Collective, an online community for independent artists where they can access real opportunities and real support for their music career. Inside the collective, we take a long-term approach to building your artist career. We teach you how to build a community around your music and how to stack real wins over time rather than constantly chasing a lottery ticket for your music. So don't waste more time and money chasing overnight success. Come join the Mad Records Collective and let's build your music career the right way. And for a limited time, we're offering a 30-day free trial so you can check out what we're all about. All you have to do is click the link in the post below, or if you're listening to the audio-only version of this podcast, just head to madrecordscollective.com/podcast to start your free trial. We can't wait to work with you. Now, let's go back to the podcast. Well, I was just going to say, I had a conversation with Rob about this earlier today. That's why it's fresh on the top of my head. But I was saying, like, I think the view of art historically has been the art is the finished product. Like it's the painting or it's the sculpture or it's the song. When in reality, I think art is always been the finished product plus the story behind how that product was made. So like the example I used with Rob was like the Sistine Chapel. It's like you look at the roof of the Sistine Chapel and it's like this amazing, beautiful, painting. But without thinking of Michelangelo being there painting each part of that painting and on his back and all the myth and the stories about, the paint dripping down into his face, whatever the case is like, that's what makes it emotionally compelling when you walk in there is to go, oh my gosh, someone actually did this, right? Like, or even if you go back to like the rock and roll days and hair metal bands and all this stuff, it's like there was a mythology around those bands that they were like these like gods almost, and that was part of it. Or the Beatles with the British invasion, and it's like all of the story and the myth that surrounded the final product changed your perception of the final product. So I think that art, like I think AI can probably get really, really close to imitating the product, but what it can't do is it can't tell the story of how that was made. And a lot of people think that that's just like a trivial, like, well, who cares because it's going to matter to the product. And for a lot of people, that will be enough. Like there will be people that will just consume AI products and that will be enough. But for people that are looking for an emotional connection and a artistic experience, they're going to care about that story. And I think interestingly enough, that's like what we've been all working on with like Substack is kind of like using the story as an addition to the product. Like it's not just the song, but it's the story about how the song was created that adds to the artistic experience. And I don't think that's something that can be replicated because it's just generated like that.
Even if it can though, like why would you, sorry, I was just gonna say, Kep and I have just been on a writing retreat, like for 3 days where we worked on recording some live versions of some of our songs, and we worked on finishing some songs that haven't been, that have been unfinished for months. And it was a real, like there are parts of that are just like a struggle, but the most delightful struggle. And if you love the struggle of making art, like if you love the struggle, why on earth would outsourcing it be satisfying in any way? And that's the part that I don't understand in this conversation. Like even if it gets to the point where, and I think it is close, where it can create these incredible, AI can create these incredible sounding end products. This was the nature of the discussion I was having with Maya Ackerman. You can create these beautiful sounding artifacts at the end, but if you love making music, then making music is the thing that results in an end product.
You said that.
Why would you outsource it?
About yoga, where it's like, why would you outsource yoga? The doing of the yoga is the thing. I remember you said that to me, and I was like, yeah, that's
the doing of the thing. Yeah.
But that's the thing is the most of the AI conversation, the panic comes around. Well, it's not about the creators. The creators know that there's value in doing it. They're worried that the consumers aren't going to care. But
that's true.
But that's really important because there's two different essentially markets for music, right? Like there is the creator and then there is the listener. And, the uncomfortable reality is there's value in the creative process, but ultimately we want communion with a listener, right? Like there is a different level of meaning to our creation that happens when there is an audience, right? And like, Benny and I are guilty of it too, where we will like create an illusion around the creative process where it is valuable in and of itself, right? And that is essential, I would say for us to like stay motivated in the process, right? To like stay connected to it, to say
Right.
it's valuable in doing it in and of itself. But the true reality is like your creation wants a reception. You know, it wants a
Yeah.
connection with another person to kind of move it along to its kind of next state of being, or its next state of meaning. So there, of course, there's a relationship between like creation and audience. But I think as far as AI goes, yes, I think there is a world in which it's yeah, like there's no point outsourcing yoga. Like we do want to engage in it because it is meaningful and it's spiritual. And you know, where do songs come from? You know, your initial question when you asked that a little while ago, like the first image that came into my mind is like when I started writing music as a kid, you know what I mean, as a teenager and then as a young adult, like all of that was from this um profound place of like the literal awesomeness of making something, just creating something like that just now exists that didn't exist. Like what's better than that? Like, you know, I remember I, you know, recently told you, Michael, like my first degree attempt at university was a law degree. And I just became
Hmm.
so distressed during that degree because I had such a compulsion to create something, like such a need to form my own existence out of making something. Like I felt like I didn't exist properly unless I was making something. And to me, like studying law and politics and political theory, I felt like I was just on the outside of existence looking at do you mean like commenting and analyzing on things, but sort of like outside of existence? And so to me, songwriting was like writing myself into existence, you know, like making something that
Hmm.
was like, here I am, here is me, here I am, look, I exist, you know? So for me, that was an early motivation force, right? So I think for a lot of creators, that thing, you know, yes, why outsource yoga? Like you just can't do it. It's a self-evident truth of the creative process. I think that it is more self-evident when you have the skill to do that. I think it can be distressing for people. Like AI can bum you out. Oh, Benny's video is gone. Hey, well,
Gone.
I think AI
What a
can bum you
classic, like
out.
I lost my signal frame right there though. The different bars.
Yeah,
Sorry. Go
totally.
ahead.
Like, so I think that for some musicians and creators, AI can feel like a bummer when you don't have the skill to manifest the thing that you want to manifest, right? When you
Hmm.
are trying so hard to do something and then you just ask AI to do it and then it does it for you and makes something better than what you feel capable of currently doing. I think that that can be unmotivating, but ultimately it's just got to be an extra incentive to like continue to develop the skill so that you can like enter that zone where you can make the things that you imagine and you know feel that power and impact and joy of doing the thing, not sort of outsourcing the yoga. So there's the creation side, but then of course there's the audience side. And I think there's a real, you know, people listen to music in different contexts and for different reasons. And I do think that there is a zone in which AI generated music is going to be fine. Like people are not going to care either way,
Totally.
you know? So in my sort of experience and analysis of this stuff, it's like music that is essentially background music that's there to generally create like an ambience or a kind of vibe or a mood. Like, sure, AI is going to do a great job. Do you mean like study music or you know what I mean? Like music where
Yeah.
you as a consumer, you're not trying to connect emotionally to the music. You're not
Right.
consuming it to try and, you know, help you figure out what it means to be human. You know, it's not art in that sense. It's somehow functional. You know what I mean? It's serving some other reason or function, right? But there's always going to be, and we feel that like there's always going to be music. And I think it also comes down to like what motivates you to write music as a creator. Like what motivates me is that my heart and mind and soul were changed by songs and songwriters. You know what I mean? Like I learned things about existence and what it means to exist from
Right.
songwriters. And
Right.
so
Right.
AI is never going to be able to do that for me
Well,
and for lots of other people who seek it out for different reasons. Like it's never going to be able to do that. So
this
there's
is my
always
core
going to be
frustration.
music. Yeah.
this is my core frustration with the AI conversation is that every creative I talk to talks about that specific feeling and how special it is and how unique it is and how it is something that cannot be replicated. And then on the same token, they have zero faith that that will resonate with the core consumer. Like they think that the consumers
Hmm.
are just going to be like, oh, well, I don't notice that at all. I don't care about that. And it's got to be one or the other. Either you have faith that the thing that you're doing, the thing that you're engaging in is special, it's unique, it's beautiful, it's interesting, or you don't, in which case you got to
Mm.
say that. But I've never speak to a creative who's like, yeah, what we do is not special at all and AI is going to ruin it. It's like they're always saying it's incredibly special and then AI is going to ruin it. It's like you have to be convicted one way or the other because this sitting in between both and trying to say, well, it's really, really special, but the consumer is too stupid to recognize that or too
Yeah.
not complex enough to understand what's happening here. It's like I don't know. I don't think anything ever good comes from kind of underestimating your audience and your consumer. I
Yeah,
think you have
and
to
I don't
believe
I don't
they're going to
relate to
know.
that at all. I would say like and
Right.
I also think that like fields of research are showing that to be true as well. So it's interesting and it's complex and it's nuanced. But like one study that I'm pretty sure came out of Harvard, although I'd have to like find it, that I was just found fascinating was testing two audiences reading a bit of text, and what they basically found is that a reader, as they were reading some text, the moment that they realized that it was generated by AI, their attention and retention dropped by 50%. So for people who believe that something is created by people, right? Like our attention and retention of that is um a lot higher, which is to say like it matters to people biologically that things are
Right.
coming from other people. We can't control that. You know what I mean? That is just a reality. And it turns out as soon as we think that it's not human, we lose our connection to that thing. So the problem space there for a lot of people is that like, yes, but when something is indistinguishable, like people won't know. But we do, and we increasingly do care. Do you know what I mean? Like if you just put yourself
Hmm.
for me in the position of the listener, like just turning off the switch of like musician and creator for a second, just in terms of like the music that I create, I care. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I lose my
Hmm.
interest in stuff if I get a hint that it's created by AI, you know? So,
Yeah, it's the
like,
assumption that other people are not as discerning or
discerning
care
or
as much as
something.
you, which
Yeah.
is just worry about yourself. This is kind of my opinion on this. It's just like if you think it's special, you think it's unique, great. Then I think enough people are out there that think the same thing, and you just worry about going and making great stuff. But I know we could talk about for ages about the AI stuff, but I like touching on that because there's just so much. I
It
don't
is,
know.
and I just think, you know, the reality of it, like my prediction, and I'm pretty sure you share the same thing, is it's actually just going to put the human-made stuff at even more of a premium, like at even
100%.
more of a special, valuable space, you know. So going to see live music, it's something that we've
Live.
taken for granted forever and ever and ever. Now it's just going to become even more amazing. Like, you know, people are going to be even more kind of like bowled over by
Mm.
seeing music created and feeling all the vibrational energy coming out of like a moment where there is sound and creation and people in a room together and all that kind of stuff. So I just, you know, I don't know. I don't
To
think music is going to be obliterated. I think, and the other side of it as well, sorry, I would just say is like the other thing I think I posted on Substack the other day was this great idea that like, you know, people freaked out when AlphaGo beat, you know, the world champion Go player.
yes.
And part of like freak out was like, why would people bother playing this ancient game anymore now that a computer can beat you? It turns out the opposite thing happened. It turns out it actually generated way more interest in people playing the game. More people play it now because all it
Yeah.
did was like draw attention to the thing. Like, we don't generally want to outsource the things we enjoy just because of like an AI can also do it. You know, we're not just outcome driven. You know, we are primarily like contextual, relational, and process driven creatures. It turns out that the outcome or the product is kind of just like the icing on the cake, you know?
Yeah,
Totally.
we're experienced
Yeah.
creatures. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that lends well to like a nice era. It's like the physicality of music, like you said, Benny. It's like the idea of being in a room when those things are happening with someone who's having that experience is going to be so much more special again. And hearing those things and feeling the energy in the room, like that's going to be special again. And maybe it'll be a good catalyst for people to get offline and go out of their house and actually connect with people again, and including myself. So, yeah, I look forward to it. But
I do too.
I could always talk to you guys for hours. Obviously, we have a bunch of stuff that we can always cover. So hopefully we'll have you on again in the future. Anything that you want to plug, promote? Obviously, you've got your amazing songwriting community, which we always advocate for people to join. But yeah, anything where can they follow you? Where the people find you?
You always follow us on the YouTube channel, which is just
Always.
you know, youtube.com/@HTWS. Our website is howtowritesongs.org, and you can find all the information on our community there. Anything else, Benny?
I think that's it.
We'll be sharing this on Substack as well, so I'll invite you guys to collaborate, and everybody
Great.
should go follow their Substack as well. And
Awesome.
yeah,
Superb.
great chatting with you guys as always, and appreciate it. And
Thank you so
let's stay in
much.
touch. Okay.
Thanks, Michael.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
That's mad.